Bitcoin stabilizing up here in the $122,000 price range right now. We did end up hitting our high at 124K, and since then, we're just consolidating, which I think is an incredible sign. I mean, nobody is really paying attention to this, but what we see here today, ladies and gents, is something that we've never seen before at these price levels. And that's because every time Bitcoin came up to these levels here, it was a very quick rejection, right? I mean, Bitcoin hit these levels, fell back down very quickly. We are not doing that right now. Let me substantiate this a little bit further for you guys as well. If we take a look at this in terms of just kind of, time that we've spent above this yellow line right here, this yellow line sets 120K. This was a 13-hour breakout. This was an 8-hour sporadic breakout. Right here, 13 hours. And right here, we have a day and a bit. So if we take it over to what we've done so far, we've now managed to spend an entire day above this range. And that's not including this, where it was more sporadic. If we include everything, it's been nearly 2 days. And I know this might look relatively insignificant. I know that a lot of people are not used to carrying out analysis in this way, and that's okay. That's why you're here on this YouTube channel. Smash up the likes, double check you're subscribed if you do enjoy this content, because this is a big deal. It's a big deal when the price literally hits an all-time high region, a region where previously we were only able to stay there for a matter of a few hours, and then we would get really quick, harsh rejections. It's a big deal that we're not getting those rejections right now. If we try and read between the lines and just understand how this market is operating from, the basics, well, as far as the basics go, the bears, the ones who would want to drive the prices lower, have not been able to do that. Now, don't think that they didn't try. If we zoom in and we look at this on the hourly, which we're on right now, the hourly time frame here, every candle represents 1 hour, there was a big rejection. It's not big, but there was a rejection, and it took Bitcoin down by 2%, and it took about 2 to 3 hours. So the bears did try. The bears did try to pull this off. But usually, when the bears initiate that sell-off, that's it. We're going to drop down. We're going to fall below 120K. We're going to revisit some of our lower ranges, and we might still do that. We're going to cover those possibilities a little bit later on in this YouTube video. But one of the key things that will happen if we are going to get a big rejection most of the time is once that rejection starts, which it started right here on this super, super small rejection that Bitcoin got, once that rejection starts, it doesn't end until it puts Bitcoin back below the range that, the bears want it at. And again, if we're not able to pull that off, then you've really got to start calling into question how strong those bears actually are, okay? Because right now, we're in a situation where the bears got their way on this attempt. They got their way briefly on this attempt, and they definitely got their way on this attempt, right? When we broke above the all-time high over here. This time, when we got that big rejection, we couldn't even get back above 117 with conviction, and then we got rejected again. That is so much control that the bears had over the market. Please understand that, ladies and gents. Bitcoin punched above its all-time high 2 times, 3 times if we include the initial break of the all-time high. It broke above the all-time high multiple times, and the bears won every single time. And the best that they could do, the best drop that the bears could pull off, was a minus 14% drop, and it lasted about a month and a half. From there, an incredibly quick rally, making bears look like they don't even exist, and happening against a backdrop of a very bullish S&P 500. Now, granted, it is a weekend, and weekends typically bring a little bit more strange price action, especially for Bitcoin. But so far, we're holding up very well. And with a very strong S&P 500 and Bitcoin just consolidating up here, I don't know about you, ladies and gents, but to me, this is a great first sign, and that's why we've introed the video speaking specifically only about this. I can't stress it enough. If we're not getting a rejection where we're supposed to get rejections, that proves underlying strength on the side of the bulls. Now, let's take this a step further. If Bitcoin does end up getting a rejection, given the fact that we've held up so strong over here, and it's not looking great on this super short-term perspective here, Bitcoin is clearly looking like it wants to drop down. Now, it might not. We might defend this level at 121.8 and then make another rally up, and that would be fantastic if we do. I would love to see that. But even if we don't, and we zoom out a little bit more, there is a ton of support for Bitcoin down at this level. It's not actually a lot. Granted, I shouldn't have said a ton, but it's there. It's a decent amount of support. And we know that because we've consistently managed to find resistance at these levels. And I'd say that this level stretches down to about 119.5, right? So it's basically, like $1,000 price range, somewhere between, these two yellow lines right here, where, this is, it's a rejection zone for Bitcoin. This is a zone that Bitcoin's gotten a lot of rejections from. It hasn't really found much support in this region, but that's not too concerning for me because we've now got a more bullish stance in the market. And so if a deeper pullback is going to be happening, this zone makes a lot of sense. Now, another thing that's lining up with this zone very nicely is just some of the key indicators that I like to look at, right? So the Ichimoku cloud here on the hourly, well above this yellow kind of range right here now, and stretching all the way up to our current price. So literally, if Bitcoin's able to hang on here going into tomorrow, it is going to have a ton of support from that green Ichimoku cloud. Now, on the 4-hour time frame, we still have support from this cloud. It just hasn't reached up to the range that we're looking for. But if we take a look at this on the EMA ribbon, it is doing slightly better and already in the range that we're looking at. On the hourly, we're well past that range. So the hourly is a very short time frame, especially for momentum-based indicators like EMAs. But there are good signs of support lining up with this price range right now as well. Like I said, there is support here. I don't think it's the most bulletproof zone of support, but that's where the good news just keeps on coming in, because if we fail this level, there's another glorious level of support for Bitcoin down here at 117k, which still remains untested. The last time that we used this level of support, and at that it was very brief, was nearly 2 entire months ago on August 15th, right? We've used it as support lots more back in July, which is absolutely fantastic. And that means that this level is very much in play. It's a very reasonable level to see. If we start throwing some fibs on here to look at what some of our worst case scenarios might look like, we've got some fib interest lining up with interesting levels here. This one just basically hits the middle of this range. And granted, that makes sense. Everything from 120 down to 116 roughly is going to be a really good level of support. So it's no surprise to me that we see the fib in this range. Of course, it'd be nicer to see it line up with some of our more significant levels, but we are still getting something there. If we draw our fib from even further back, we're now getting a little bit more kind of lining up with our other tools here, with our other drawings, but broadly telling us the same thing, still showing us the same picture. So again, I think that's a really good stance for this market to be in right now. We've got a ton of support if things start looking bad for Bitcoin, but we've got a ton of underlying strength here, or more specifically, an absence of strength from the bears, an abundance of weakness from the bears, because we're back at a price range where really we should be getting quick rejections and we're not doing shit. We're just sideways. And as a result of going sideways, Bitcoin dominance has picked up as well. Bitcoin dominance is now back up to the same highs that it reached toward the end of September. And if this does result in a further increase for Bitcoin dominance, it could see a big rise up. I don't know where to. There are a couple of consolidation events at 59.7, in this case 59.5, in this case 60 whatever. I think the key level to watch is going to be 61%, but really it's the Bitcoin dominance chart, okay? So we're not going to be able to pull off the most spectacular, thorough analysis on Bitcoin dominance's chart. We can try, but we would be silly to try because I don't think that this is a realistic chart to analyze too much. But we are seeing good signs from Bitcoin dominance showing us that, yeah, some money is flowing back into Bitcoin here as Bitcoin is getting ready for a potential explosion here, which is really, really cool. And it's very simple how this works, right? When the price gets up to these price levels, all you are really looking for is, when do the sellers get exhausted, right? Because we've already got residual buying demand. We've got the S&P 500 looking good. We've got Bitcoin looking good. We've got the markets generally in a good posture right now, but we're still stuck at the previous all-time high. So the question is, why is that happening? And the answer is very straightforward. There are sellers, okay? Very straightforward. You could have done this yourself. Many of us don't come to these conclusions ourselves because we overcomplicate the game. Like I said, don't worry. That's why you're here on this YouTube channel. That's why you're subscribed to this YouTube channel, so that you don't have to worry about this stuff. You'll get these takes right here on this YouTube channel right when everything is ready and important. And just along those lines, this is the best time to get inside of our most transformative package ever. The market is blowing up and about to blow up to completely different heights from what I can see. I could be wrong, but it looks great. And if you think that this is a great time to be involved in the markets, then this one-to-one program here, it lasts 12 weeks, will be the best thing you can get yourself into. It is super, super exciting. And everybody that's ever joined has actually managed to pay off their fee of investment within a couple of weeks of joining. It is expensive and it is serious, but if it sounds like something that you would be interested in, then definitely check that out with the link in the description below. But bringing it back to the video here, if we do take a look at, where Bitcoin is and just kind of understand where its support is, we've got a really, really good structure here. Now, as far as kind of moving up, again, it's all about, where could Bitcoin go if there's a blue sky breakout? We've been, essentially suffocated in terms of price action now for nearly 3 months since we hit this price range. And a 3-month consolidation range tends to net very explosive price action for Bitcoin. If we take a look at what happened the last time Bitcoin consolidated for just 2 months, we did see Bitcoin pulling off from low to high to this high at 25 and to this high at 27% move. So if we end up doing something similar to that again right now, it just puts us in the same price ranges that we've been discussing for months on this YouTube channel, in the mid $130,000 range. And that's if we just produce the same kind of move that we did last time. This is really important for us to keep in mind, ladies and gents. Most people have no awareness of this, but when the market is bullish and it consolidates for an extended period of time, it's a bullish market. So consolidation usually leads into upward price action. And the extent of that upward price action can be quite explosive, especially if the market has been suppressed for a long time, which is what I believe that we've been seeing here, especially given the fact that Bitcoin tends to have a pretty nice positive correlation with the S&P 500, meaning positive correlation means it correlates with the S&P 500 in the same direction. If the S&P goes up, Bitcoin tends to go up. And the fact that we've seen that as an established positive correlation for many, many years now, but the S&P hit its all-time highs and it's been seeing blue sky breakouts regularly and Bitcoin hasn't yet, that to me is a sign of a temporary kind of decoupling, a temporary price suppression event, which we've seen a million times. Like, we've seen this happen a million times since Bitcoin established its positive correlation with the S&P 500. This is very normal for Bitcoin, and it always resolves, and Bitcoin always ends up returning back to that clear positive correlation with the S&P 500. And we're seeing that happen right now. We're seeing now the best attempt we've seen so far at breaking this 120K level with the least weakest response from the bears that we've seen so far as well, which I think is very, very cool. As far as some of the alts that I'm interested in, here is Solana, still holding strong, still looking good. Here is Ethereum against Bitcoin, still looking good. Now, look, both of these coins look like they are going to be dropping against Bitcoin and that they might get a little bit weaker against Bitcoin, but it's structure. It's about, like, how does it look, right? Even if they drop, how are they dropping? Are they dropping in a way that looks concerning to us, or are they dropping in a way that looks like standard procedure to us? Concerning? It's hard to get there. These coins have already reset effectively. They've dropped down by massive amounts, and they've already hit resistance levels. So we're anticipating rejections anyway. Concerning, frankly, is far away. It might be close for you. Maybe you're overinvested. Maybe you're overly emotional in the market, whatever the case may be. It's going to be different for different people. But as far as just how things are looking on a much more absolute scale, this market looks great. These coins are in great places. If we look at Ethereum against Bitcoin here, a rejection off resistance, falling down potentially to support. We only expect that to happen. That's exactly what we want to see. Solana against Bitcoin, rejection at resistance, traveling back down to support. None of this is surprising, and none of this comes anywhere near to any level of concerning territory. This is good. This is a healthy market, and Bitcoin is proving that to us right now with its consolidation here. So if it is able to wake up, we're looking at, 122.8. If Bitcoin can rise above that, that's going to be a pretty good sign that there's a lot of strength here to take Bitcoin up to new all-time highs, right? If we take a look at this chart, this colors it in for us a little bit more. Let's call it 123. 123 looks like a better level to kind of make this point, where I'm basically saying, look, if Bitcoin does manage to pump above this level, then, there's really no resistance stopping Bit from getting back up to the all-time high. And again, we've got to keep in mind that this has never happened before, right? Bitcoin has never risen above the 120K level, consolidated on a 1 hour, 4 hour time frame scale, and then managed to rise up again. Bitcoin has never done that yet. So we're doing a couple of things that Bitcoin's never done, and we're doing it with great. I mean, we've done this before a million times, just not at this price level. And that's what allows us to have a lot of certainty about this, is that, we've seen this kind of thing develop for Bitcoin. We've seen Bitcoin get, repeatedly heavy rejections off a particular price level, but then one day it rises up to that price level and there's no more rejections happening. It's only sideways consolidation. And that's always what it looks like. It's not always, but it's like, in my experience, it's got to be like an 80% of the time thing, something around there, where Bitcoin does end up getting that breakout afterwards, which I obviously think to be very, very exciting here if it does end up happening. There are no guarantees in this market, but I'm just kind of reading what the chart is telling me. And that to me means that if Bitcoin is able to get above this 123K level, well, that's where we could see a big explosion coming in. And again, if we're able to pull that off, who's to say that 124K is going to keep the price suppressed again, right? That's a pretty hard statement to make. There's going to be potentially a massive influx of buy volume if Bitcoin does get above 123. And I don't know who's selling at this stage, right? Like, the chart looks like it's obviously going to go up. The S&P, which I keep on harking on about, is obviously also in great posture. So it's hard to be bearish on this right now. There are people who are bearish on this, but they're typically just people that don't really have particularly deep pockets in the market, right? In other words, the people who are bearish are just retail broke traders from what I've seen. There are definitely bigger guys that break this rule, so to speak, that I'm describing, and there are exceptions to what I'm describing. Trust me, nobody's smart for pointing out these exceptions, but as a more general thing, we are definitely seeing that the larger money is still positioned to take advantage of crypto, not positioned to be scared of where we're at right now. There are exceptions. There are big exceptions, people like Warren Buffett, but I think for the most part, we're seeing tons of capital still lining up in this direction, and it's happening inside of environments where the charts look absolutely fantastic. So to me, this is a pretty done deal. There's not a whole lot more that I can say about this, and that's why I'm really, really happy to see how this market is going on and developing with this price action here. So if you've enjoyed this, make sure you smash up those likes, subscribe, tick the bell, do all that good stuff. We're live regularly when the market is moving, so if you are subscribed with that bell icon checked, then you're going to know all about that. If you're inside of our free 4Flies Gold Telegram channel, we're going to be putting exclusive posts up there, which we've already been doing for a long time, and reminders on when our live streams are happening, which is super, super cool. Check out the links in the description, some of the best exchanges in the game, and we will see you all in the next one. Oh, and if you're using these links, do not use them from a restricted region. And with that, we will see you all in the next one.